Hello, my dear friends. I know it's not yet Sukkot, but I'm sitting in my sukkah, which is unfinished because I needed a quiet place to record my drasha. At the end of Yom Kippur, in Mincha, we read the Haftarah from Sefer Yonah. Yonah is such a powerful story, and it is so relevant to the human condition. Many lessons to learn from Sefer Yonah. The first is with respect to tshuva, that you see how HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants mankind to do tshuva. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends Yonah to Nineveh. It's not a Jewish city, but God loves all people, and and the people in Nineveh, they were Rishayim, but He dispatches Yonah in order that they should do tshuva. And even though Yonah tries to run away, God doesn't let him get away with it, and He almost forces Yonah to deliver the message of tshuva and inspire the people in Nineveh to do tshuva. And Yonah is upset at the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why'd you make me do this? And God says, there's 120,000 souls in Nineveh. Shouldn't I have compassion on them? And this is tremendous lesson. You see how much compassion HaKadosh Baruch Hu has. Even people who are so far distant and so far away, they're still human beings. And certainly HaKadosh Baruch Hu has compassion on us. We are His children, we are His servants, we are His avadim. We serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Certainly He has compassion, and He's constantly encouraging us throughout our lifetimes to make sure to do tshuva, to be on the right track. A second lesson is that you see that Yonah had a mission. Every human being has a mission in life, or multiple missions. But human nature is that people don't want to fulfill God's missions. They have other plans, other designs. And Yonah runs away. He's boreach, and he's even Yonah's name. Yonah is a bird, a dove, flies away like a bird, and he does things that are absurd. He tries to escape from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and in the middle of a storm, God is turning over the world so that Yonah has a mission. His mission is to deliver the message of repent to the people in Nineveh, and Yonah doesn't want to do it, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he brings a storm, and there's turbulence and chaos, and then Yonah goes to sleep in the boat, and he falls into a tardema, which means a very deep sleep, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu has the captain of the boat comes banging on the door to wake up Yonah, and then Yonah is thrown over the boat into the sea, and he's swallowed by a fish. And all this, everything that happens is in order to realign Yonah. God could have sent somebody else if Yonah doesn't want to be the Navi. So God could say, I'll get a different person to do it, to deliver the message. But no, that was Yonah's mission. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu constantly redirects Yonah and pushes him in the right direction. And throughout our lives, it's the same way that we go off on our own tangents, and we want to do our thing, and we're oblivious to HaKadosh Baruch Hu calling us and encouraging us. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu is persistent, and his mission will be done. And just as Yonah's mission was done, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes sure that we stay on track, at least as much as is humanly possible. I want to talk about two other important messages from Sefer Yonah, and that is, there's a terrific story about the Geri Rebbe. He was known as the Chidush Arim. He wrote a Sefer called Chidush Arim, the Chidushim of the Rim. The Rim is an acronym. Rav Yitzchak Meir, he was the first Geri Rebbe, and he was a disciple of the Kutzker Rebbe, Reb Menachem Mendel from Kutz. They both lived in the early part of the 19th century, and the story is told that the Chidush Arim, the first time that he met the Kutzker Rebbe, and the Kutzker Rebbe was typical that you went to meet a great person, and he would give you a fahar, he would test you to see if you know how to learn. The Chidush Arim was a brilliant Talmid Chacham, and so the Rebbe said to him, do you know the answer to the Rav HaChovel's kasha? So the Chidush Arim, who was familiar with the vast array of Torah knowledge, and they knew so many svarim, but he said, I never heard of that sefer, Rav HaChovel, and I never heard of that author, Rav HaChovel. Who's the Rav HaChovel? And what is his kasha? You want to know if I know the answer to his question. What question are you talking about, my dear Rebbe? So the Kotzker Rebbe says, you don't know. The Rav HaChovel's question is, Malach Nirdam. The Rav HaChovel is in the Mafta Yonah, Rav HaChovel refers to the captain of the ship. And the Rav HaChovel says to Yonah, Malach Nirdam. Malach Nirdam means, how in the world is it possible that you're sleeping? How could you sleep? Is it storm raging? We just saw what storms are in southern Florida, Helene and Milton, the tremendous chaos and the ravaging winds and the tornadoes. The world was in chaos. On the ocean where Yonah was in the boat, the boat there was chaos all around, and yet Yonah, what does he do? Everybody else, all the sailors are praying to their gods, and Yonah, of all people, he goes to the hold of the ship and he falls into a tardema. The word tardema is different than the word shena. Shena means to go to sleep. You could wake somebody up from sleep. Tardema, the sleep is so intense you can't even wake the person. The tardema, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created Chava, Ivayapel tardema, he put Adam into a state of tardema, and he extracted his rib or a side from Adam, and he created Chava. When you want to do surgery, it's not enough that a person should go to sleep, because you go to sleep, you start slicing with the knife, the person will wake up and scream in pain. You put the person with anesthesia, the person goes into a tardema, he doesn't respond to anything. Yonah self-induced a state of tardema. And so what does the Rav HaChovel say to Yonah? Malucha nirdam. How in the world is it possible you're sleeping at a time like this? Malucha is much more. It's much more powerful than lama at nirdam. Malucha means, how is it conceivable? You find a number of places in Tanakh where the expression malucha appears. It always means something that's inconceivable. Malucha nirdam. How in the world could you be sleeping in the middle of such a storm? So the Kotzker Rebbe said that every person has to answer that question, Malucha nirdam, and it's the question of the Rav HaChovel. The Rav HaChovel in Sefer Yonah is symbolic of a HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is the ultimate Rav HaChovel. He's the ultimate captain of everything that's taking place in the world. And when there's a storm, HaKadosh Baruch, just like the Rav HaChovel asked Yonah, Malucha nirdam, HaKadosh Baruch Hu asks every human being, if we're paying attention, Malucha nirdam, why in the world are you not listening? Why aren't you paying attention? Why aren't you responding? Why aren't you transforming yourself at this critical time? And the Gay Rebbe says, the Kotzker Rebbe said to the Gay Rebbe, every person has to be able to answer the question of the Rav HaChovel. And this is such a powerful lesson for us at this present time, because we have gone through for most of us, the most turbulent period of time of our lives. It's now over a year since October 7th, and there's been such chaos and such storms and such severe winds and tornadoes and all the terrible things that occurred this past year. You would think that every single one of us would be the world's greatest tzaddik, and we would see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is turning over the world to remind us of our responsibilities. And yet we like Yonah, we run away and we go to sleep, and we go into the hold of the ship in order to be away from the storm. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is pounding on the door. He's the ultimate Rav HaChovel, and he says, Malucha nirdam, how could you not be paying attention at a time like this? How could you be the same today as you were a year ago? How many of us can say that we've transformed ourselves this past year in response to the storm that's taking place? So it was, how does the Navi refer to it, as the Ruach Gadol? There was, Hashem hit the Ruach Gadol. Hashem had a tremendous wind, Vahisar Gadol, and there was a powerful storm on the ocean. Vania Chishva Hishaver, and the ship was about to be destroyed. We're going through that storm, and it's not only a storm limited to Eretz Yisrael, it's around the world, and even here in America, there's a storm in Congress and in college campuses, and wherever you go, there's tremendous rise in anti-Semitism, and so much hatred is being spewed against the Jewish people. So, but how, if we're honest, how many of us could say, oh, we're not the same now because of the storm. We've transformed ourselves. So the Rebbeinu Shalom, at least on Yom Kippur, we have to hear the Rav HaChovel pounding on the door, asking that kasha that the Kotzker Rebbe said, what's the answer? What's the tshuva? How do you answer such a kasha? It's a bomb kasha. The kasha is Maluch near them. How are you sleeping at a time like this? And I want to point out another thing that's related to this, and that is that the Rav HaChovel, it refers to the captain. Why is the captain called the Rav HaChovel? Because chavolim are knots. The captain, the way the captain controls the ship is by tying knots in the sails. That's how you direct the ship. So the captain is called the Rav is the one in charge of the chavolim, of the knots. The Rebbeinu Shalom is the one that's pulling the strings and tying the knots. In other words, the storm that we've lived through this past year, don't think that the storm happened just with happenstance. It just happened to come about. It's because of the evil Iranians and Hezbollah and Hamas. That it is true; those people are evil. But ultimately, who's pulling the strings? Who's controlling the storm? It's the Rebbeinu Shalom. You know that when the storm took place, so the sailors said, we have to draw lots. Who's the cause of this storm? So the question that the Mefarshim asks is, how did they know that the person that was causing the storm was on that boat? This was there must have been a sea route. The Yonah went to Tarshish. There must have been other boats that also went to Tarshish. How did they know that the storm was because of one person on the boat? It could have been anybody. It could have been maybe there were 100 boats on the sea. How did they know that it was somebody there was the one that was the cause of the storm? So the Forshim quote a Pirkei de Rabbi Elazar who says that the storm only affected that boat. There were other boats that were sailing on the side and in front and behind, and they were totally unaffected. There was no storm for this boat was tossed in tremendous turmoil and chaotically in the raging sea. So they knew that the storm was directed specifically against this boat. So they knew there had to be somebody on that boat that was the cause of the storm. So I would say that when you look at what's the turmoil in the world, the epicenter of the turmoil is the state of Israel, and it's the Jewish people. Why in the world Israel is like a tiny state the size of New Jersey? Why is the whole world focused on the state of Israel? Why is the United Nations? They passed more resolutions against Israel than against any other nation with all the human abuses around the world. And Israel is a state, a democracy. Why is there so much hatred against the state of Israel? Why is there so much hatred for the Jewish people? We are such generous people and moral individuals. Why is that? How is it conceivable? So when you see that there's so much turmoil in the world, then what you have to realize is that ultimately it's the Rav HaChovel that's trying to get our attention. It's true, he allows, just like when the Jews went to Mitzrayim, so Paro was the instrument and the Egyptians the instrument for the slavery. But it was, the Rebbeinu Shalom did not relinquish control. There was a purpose for that galus. So there's a purpose for what is taking place in the world, and it's ultimately being controlled by the Rav HaChovel, the ultimate Rav HaChovel, the Rebbeinu Shalom. He's the one that's pulling the strings and tying the knots and setting the sails. So we need to in other words, here's the point I want to make. It would be a mistake to think that the reason why everything that transpired this past year is because of all the Rishayim around the world, all the Sinai people that hate the Jews. They are the one that caused it, and now because we have a problem, so we have to turn to the Rebbeinu Shalom and we ask Rebbeinu Shalom save us from that. No, that's backwards. It's the Rebbeinu Shalom created. You see, the focus is in Klal Yisrael. Why is so much animosity directed only against Klal, more than any other group of people in the world. And the Jews make so many contributions to the world and to society and to civilization. And the Jews are not aggressive and they're moral. So why are we the epicenter of everything all the time? Why is there so much hatred spewed against us? Why is the storm focused only on our boat? So when you see that, so then we have to say, Bishvil mi hara hazos lana. Why is this happening to us? It must be that the Ribono Shel Olam had a reason. I can't tell you the reason. I'm not a Navi, I'm not a prophet. But maybe it's because the Ribono Shel Olam wants to wake us up. Maybe because we didn't. So we had COVID a few years ago. That was an unbelievable storm, and that should have woken us up, and that should have transformed us. And we should have been we should have been able to say after COVID ended, we should have been able to say we're completely transformed. We're different than we were before. But the Tardema, it's so hard to get out of the Tardema, out of the stupor, out of the anesthetized state of slumber, and being that everything that's going on in the world around, we're impervious to those messages. So the Ribono Shel Olam said, perhaps just theorizing. The Ribono Shel Olam said, okay, you didn't get my message before during COVID. Okay, now I have another message for you. And there's a different storm, and it's a storm that specifically targeted the Jewish people, including the state of Israel, but and Jews around the world. So the question of the Rav HaChovel is asking us that question. The Rav HaChovel, the one that's controlling it, he's the one that ultimately controls the storm and ultimately brought the storm against us for reasons that we're not Nevi'im, so we don't know why God did that. But he is the Rav HaChovel, and so we need to hear that message of Ma'alecha Nirdan. The Rav HaChovel is talking directly to us. He's talking, and when I say us, it means me, because it's easy to say, he's talking to the other guy. But the sailors, they pinned it on Yonah. So they had lots. We don't have lots. But it's the Ribono Shel Olam is talking to each one of us. And each one of us has our own mission. And each one of us we've been evading the mission, just like Yonah. So the story has such powerful relevancy to us. So we have to hear that message. This year on Yom Kippur, like no Yom Kippur before, we have to hear Ma'alecha Nirdam, and we have to make a decision that this year is going to be different. What changes are we going to make in our lives to show that we finally woke up and smelled the coffee, and we understand the Ribono Shel Olam, he cares about us, he's pursuing us, he's pushing us, he's persistent, and he wants us to become great individuals. I hope in Mirz Hashem, we indeed will rise to the occasion. And this year will be a year of Yeshuos and Nechamos, and a year of tremendous. Everybody should be well and healthy in their families, and we should be able to celebrate Simchas. We should all have a Gemar Chasim Tova, and we should be able to accomplish tremendous things for ourselves, for Klal Yisrael, and for all of humanity. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful Yom Tov.